Okay, so my lovely wife is over there administering, and we have a website in case you want to go see it. It's not an official church website, it's just something that I put together with my brother-in-law, prophecyofjesus.com, where we have our things, teachings, etc. If you remember, the tribulation is 7 years divided into various time frames: 3.5 years, 42 months, 1,260 days. At the beginning, we have point A, the 144,000 are sealed in the rapture. In the middle, we have Satan inhabiting Antichrist. The number 666 is employed, and those who don't take it are martyred, who are going to be millions upon millions. It's going to be very hard to get away from the surveillance state. We're already in it. China's way ahead of us. They know absolutely everything every citizen is doing out there. They have cameras, facial recognition everywhere these people go in China. They know everything about it. Mm-hmm. And if they don't comply, then they send the goons. Yeah, the credit score goes down, and if they're real offenders, then they're taken off to they disappear.
Yeah, they take their organs.
Yeah, it's like the mafia guys. Hey, what happened to Joe Descar? Oh, he disappeared. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that's what happens to the people. I mean, there's a lot of Christians there. Don't get me wrong, great movement, but that's also meaning great persecution. So where's the greatest churches in the world? Where there's the greatest persecution. Okay, another topic for another day. The two witnesses, I discussed their coming on the last 3.5 years, and that the Gentiles will trample the city for 3.5 years, the last 3.5, and then at the very end, they're killed and they go up to heaven. And of course, they're there with Jesus, Moses and Elijah, as on the Mount of Transfiguration. And then they're going to celebrate that, of course, the worldly people. The Greek says dwellers on the earth. I just call them earth dwellers. So even today, you're either an earth dweller or you're a heaven dweller. You know, there is no sitting on the fence. Jesus said, "Who is not for me is against me." So, you know, some people, well, I got my own religion. I got my own thing with God. No, you don't. You think you do. You're going to have a crude awakening, a rude awakening one day if you keep with that. Okay, so we have them going up to heaven in a cloud. There's a great earthquake. I mentioned there's only one real great earthquake in the book, and we're going to continue on and look at the rest of chapter 11. Chapter 11 is a very important chapter, and it talks about the witnesses who are pivotal in the sense that they are the only ones witnessing to Antichrist. And the only reason they can do that is because they can't be killed. That's kind of, it shows you right there, you know, there's different opinions about destination, predestination, all kinds of things. I don't want to get into that, but this is a definite. It says these people are sealed. In other words, God has his hand on them, and that's true of every Christian. In other words, if you are one who is ministering for God and he has you on a mission, let me put it that way, then nothing can happen to you until you have fulfilled that mission. Now, for some people, that mission meant martyrdom, but that's very rare in our day and time. I think they made a movie called Tip of the Spear, but that was about a long time ago, 1950s, if I recall, about a pilot, I guess you call him a bush pilot, flew down a number of missionaries and was killed down in South America. But I mean, it's rare. We almost never hear that about American missionaries. Now, that's different, of course, from indigenous missionaries. You know, there's lots of martyrs that are martyrdoms that are occurring around the world. We just usually don't hear anything about it unless missionaries come to the church and we're informed. So some of the greatest missionary movements, I'm sure, in the greatest martyrdoms today are probably in Africa and China, two of the strongest church locations in the world. I should mention Iran. I don't know that much about it, but I'm told and I hear that that Iran has a tremendous growing church there. And obviously, it's not easy to be a Christian in a Muslim country because they're the only ones that'll kill you just for being a Christian. I mean, others may kill you for whatever reason, but you say, I'm a Christian. Okay, good enough. We're going to kill you now. In other words, the Quran teaches that they should do that. Without getting too far into Islam, you have to go back to an old book that was written before modern political correctness to find out about Muhammad. But Muhammad, he went throughout Saudi Arabia, and every time he would go to a city, he would force them to convert or he'd chop their head off. So then when you see, oh, these are fundamentalist, terrorist Islam people. No, they're just doing what we would call today, if somebody did for as a Christian what they're doing, we'd call them, that's a true follower of Christ. So the terrorists, what so-called terrorist Islamics are really the true followers of Muhammad. They're doing what Muhammad did. If you're healing the sick and casting out devils and doing whatever things that it says at the end of Mark, then you're a true Christian according to the scripture. So we don't call ourselves, fundamental terrorist Christians. That's just following Jesus. These people are just following Muhammad. Enough of that. Sideline. Okay. I mean, you're never going to hear that from the media because that's not politically correct. That's not what they want you to believe. But that's only coming into my mind. And I think maybe guys have me say this because of all the protests that are going on. The next step after these protests is going to be people are going to die. I'm not wanting it. I'm not predicting it as such. I'm just saying that's the logical progression. Okay. Now they're calling for the death of Jews. Eventually, they're going to want to kill Jews. Just that's how it happened in Nazi Germany. You have to go back. People are ignorant of history today. They don't teach history, the real history. But if you go back and read the history of Nazi Germany, what's happening today, the anti-Semitism is very, very similar. And the people there in Germany say, oh, that could never happen here. Even after the war, someone said, we didn't know that was going on. Of course they did. They knew what was going on. The rumor tree spreads fast. But here we go. This is the book of Revelation. This is not rumor. This is reality. Jesus telling future before it happens. So that's a key part of the Lord. The Lord knows all things past, present, and future. If he doesn't, then he's not God. And if he's not God, then what are we doing here? Okay, so people go to Nostradamus and they go to Edgar Cayce. I can go down the list of things when I was young. I used to follow and believe the nonsense, demonically inspired tales of demons and evil. But there's only one person that knows the future. The demons know a lot about people, and Satan has his plans, and the demons can get into a medium and tell you a lot of things about yourself only because they've been here for thousands upon thousands of years. They know you better than yourself. But that's not prophecy. That's demonically inspired manipulation and control. Prophecy is God thousands of years in the past telling in the future that this particular group is going to do this particular thing at this particular time. Satan has no such power. He can't do that. He tries to mimic it. Remember Isaiah 14:14, I will mimic, I'll be like the Most High. So he's always a mimicker. He's never a doer. He's an observer and an imitator, but he's never a creator. He can't create anything. But at any rate, so God in the future has predicted that we're going to have 4 seals happen. I've mentioned that there's 3 points, A, B, and C in the tribulation. A is the beginning. I believe the 4 horsemen are the beginning, the first part of the tribulation, kind of a complex of 4 things into one. And those 4 things into one are going to be a tremendous war. I call it World War III. I used to get some looks like people thought I was maybe losing it when I said that, but I have in the last 2 weeks recorded at least a dozen different news secular sites saying, are we on the verge of World War III? It's not my imagination. It's not some crazy old guy that's studying Revelation. It's the world who know nothing about God, nothing about prophecy or confirming what this book has said. Written probably 95 AD. So we're looking at almost 2,000 years ago. So we see that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse occur. And then in the middle, when Satan comes down and he's cast to earth, we see that there's going to be the altar of souls. And the altar of souls, the reason they have this multitude from the way it's phrased kind of is like, multitude of multitudes, almost an innumerable number of folks that he sees in that little vision. And those people then are declared as being those who came out of the Great Tribulation. So in case we wonder, I wish it could be clear. I wish the Revelation would just tell me clearly what this means. It tells me what it means. Who are these folks that came out of the Great Tribulation? There's only one Great Tribulation. It's the last 3.5 years. Because the book itself calls it the Ellipsis Megalis, the Great Tribulation. And then at this point, we're going to Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. The second woe has passed, and the third woe is coming soon. Coming soon is in the Greek. I like to study the Greek. I think it's interesting. Is taxu, and taxu is without delay. And you say, "Oh, I don't care about the Greek." No, but you might be interested if you're an automotive guy and you've ever had a car with a tachometer in it. That's where this word came from. I should say tachometer came from this word in the Greek. So what's a tachometer? Does anybody know anything about automotives in here? Yes, sir. What's a tachometer?
Gives you the revolutions of the engine.
Right.
speed.
So it's not the speed of the car that it's going, but the actual revolution of the I guess the engine, the crankshaft and everything. So basically within the engine itself. So basically the tachometer may read something 2,000, 3,000, whatever, or you can go up to, I guess, 5,000, blow your car up. There's a limit on. Yeah, there it usually has a little red line up there. Don't go up there. But yeah, so I don't think they put those on cars anymore. They used to when I was young.
Yes,
Maybe.
they do.
Oh, maybe they do. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, my brother-in-law is a car guru, so he'll probably hear this.
Mostly sports cars, though.
Sports cars. Okay. Yep. So, okay. That's good to know. But anyway, so tachometer means fast. It's how fast is the engine going? So tachometer, the measure of the fastness is what it literally means. So that's the word here. Coming soon means quickly, fast. It doesn't mean something else. It means fast. However, you have to understand that in God's timing, fast can mean a lot of different things. Since he's in the eternal dimension, fast may mean 1,000 years, but I'm sure it doesn't here because these things are happening in rapid succession. So it is the next judgment is coming fast. Keep in mind that there are 7 seals and 7 trumpets, and the last 3 trumpets are referred to as woes. You don't have to go too far into that. Just when you see the first woe, it's the 5th trumpet. The second woe, it's the 6th trumpet. The 7th woe, third woe, it's the 7th trumpet. So the book of Revelation is like a puzzle. You got to work at it. Okay. It's I think when I was a kid, well, I guess when our kids were young, we did more puzzles, and some of them fairly intricate, right? And so you dump it all on the table, and then you would have a frame, right? And that would be called the framework. Okay, that's what I'm trying to teach in class, the framework. So the first thing you have to do is put the puzzle together by aligning like pieces. That's how you understand Revelation. When you have all these pieces in front of you, and your sister's there and your friends, and they're all looking at the pieces. Okay, which piece is first? And somebody grabs one and says, "This fits in the corner." Now we put that in the corner. That's point A. Then you find another piece, and you go, "Oh, that's point B." Goes in the other corner. Then you find a piece, point C. It goes in the third corner. And then you find a piece, point D, which we haven't talked about yet. You put it in another corner. Until you have those A, B, and C points in the puzzle, you cannot begin the puzzle. You can try all you want to. Somebody could take those pieces and throw them in the trash can. You'll be there a week from Sunday because there's no way you're going to build that puzzle. You got to have the pieces. That's the way the book of Revelation is. It's not meant for everybody to know. It's meant for Christians to know. You say, "Well, I don't think you can understand it." Well, I'm here to tell you it's understandable, but you got to put a little elbow grease in. You have to understand the framework. It's like I looked at some of those puzzles when they were like 1,000-piece puzzle, 500 pieces. I went, how in the world are they ever going to get that together? And my little kids put it together. So how's that possible? Because they had a framework. They understood how to make the framework. And then they just slowly, one by one, oh, this doesn't fit there. This doesn't fit there. Ah, it fits here. So, I mean, that's how the revelation is. It's a puzzle, and you have to first have the framework, then you can begin to put it together. Everything is understandable in the book of Revelation. But without the framework, you're not going to get it. That's why you have so many weird theories out there. I'll call them weird and exotic theories because people don't have a framework. They are interpreting things as they go, plopping their finger down and say, oh, this must mean this, and without a context, without a framework. So you can get all kinds of weird ideas, crazy thoughts, you know. And the thing is, without a framework, you just don't have a chance of putting the pieces together. You'll come up with something, but it won't be accurate. So what we have is the trumpets, who are they are one of the most important pieces at this point in the book until we get onward into chapter 16. So in chapter 6 we had the seals, and chapter 7 is like a parenthetical. We talked about chapter 8 and 9 were the trumpets, and the last 3 are the woes that we see right here. So in chapter 9 of 8 and 9, which is one passage really, you have these points being taken. So the first woe is in the middle of the tribulation. That's when the locusts from the bottomless pit come up. And I believe it starts in the middle. If you believe otherwise, that's fine. It's clear to me it's not in the beginning. It's not in the first 3.5 years. As from my understanding, in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, there's a tremendous war at the beginning, but then the Antichrist is rebuilding the world. That's the whole idea of who he is and why he's coming. He is going to be the savior of the world to rebuild a destroyed planet, if you will. Not that a whole planet will be destroyed, but there's going to be a lot of devastation. And so that's what Hitler did. Hitler's the little type. Nazi Germany after World War I, and the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, November 11th, 11 o'clock. They signed it in a railroad car, and it was a war to end all wars. Nazi Germany was heavily penalized. And one of the old French generals said, within 20 years, we'll have another war because we have taken out too much vengeance on Germany. And that's why Hitler came to power. Okay. But I'm painting a picture. In other words, there's the war and destruction, and out of that destruction, eventually will come a dictator. It's the same pattern every time. So there's going to be a tremendous war at the beginning, the Red Horse, and all that happens, the death and destruction. And then we're going to have 3.5 years of rebuilding. You say, how can it take only 3.5 years to rebuild? Well, you got to understand, Antichrist is the genius of geniuses. All right. He's the smartest man who's ever lived since Adam, if you say. Not because he's necessarily so smart, but the demons who know everything, been around for thousands of years and know everything, are energizing him and empowering him. That's where he gets his power. So I guess you could say if a medium is energized by demonic powers and can know things, well, he's going to be energized by all the demons, and he's going to know everything. So how's the world going to explain that? Well, I have my own theories, but we won't talk about it now. But the thing is, for 3.5 years, he's going to rebuild. The main thing he's going to rebuild, though, is the temple, the third temple. And so that's the temple he's going to sit in 3.5 years. While he's building the temple, the Jews think he's building a temple for them, and they're calling him the true Messiah. But after 3.5 years, we're with AI, robotics, we don't even know half of what's going to be like at that point. Just right now, this week, I'm reading articles about 3 or 4 different manufacturers that are making robots that are incredibly fast, capable of lifting tremendous amounts and running and all kinds of things. I don't have time to go into all that. But if you're staying up with current events, especially computer AI things and robotics, it's coming fast, friends. Faster than computers came along. So, it's probably by 2030, it's very possible maybe not us, but people have a little bit more money, or some of you might be rich, I don't know it. But you're going to have a robot in your house. Oh, that's science fiction. Yeah, well, I remember in 1967 watching Star Trek where the guy had a little thing, talk to his phone. He had a flip phone, right? Talking to it. And then he had this huge screen. They'd all watch this. They called it the viewer or whatever it was called. And oh, that's science fiction. That'll never happen. We have every single thing except the transporter, and we don't have that light engine yet. Well, everything else in Star Trek we have today. Tablet. They had tablets. He would take the tablet around and read it. So, but the thing is, back then, the progression of technology was much, much slower than now. We're doubling knowledge I was corrected the other day. I said every 18 months or so, and now the new figure, because of AI, is knowledge doubles every day. All of human history, all the knowledge of human history is doubled in one day now. How's that possible? Because AI is taking all that information and storing it. Huge storage farms. They're concerned because these storage farms, which are just a lot of servers, I don't want to get too deep, but that's part of what I do. But the thing is, these storage farms are taking a tremendous amount of electricity. They're creating tremendous amounts of heat. And they're like acres and acres and acres of machines. And they're mostly out in the desert, or some of them are up in the mountains. But, people don't have a clue. They use their phones. They don't know where this information is coming from. It's stored out there in the desert in this tremendous mega complex, and they're building bigger ones every day. And you don't have a clue. I don't really have a clue unless you go out there and visit these things. You don't understand how immense they are. So AI is rapidly taking over. And the futurist Kurzweil, who is the Google futurist, he's predicted that in 2030 or before, that machines will be smarter than all the people on Earth. One machine will be smarter than everybody on Earth. You say, how could it happen that fast? Well, it couldn't have when I was young. It couldn't have 20 years ago. But today, technology is going so fast. And who's going to control that technology ultimately? Who's going to rebuild the world after the war with that technology? Who's going to have an army of robots who will go out there and do construction? They're going to in other words, I say robots, but a lot of it's just that we've already got robotic machines. They're building your cars. You go online and find out who built your Toyota, you're going to find there's very few people involved in that. They're huge robots that are controlled by robot brains, and they're getting smarter because they have AI brains now. So, they're building cars, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. As someone has says, like our government, what you see and you know about the government is just the tip of the iceberg of what they're doing behind the scenes. DARPA, the internet, was created in 1960s by DARPA, who's a secretive development of the government. And they created the internet. Well, it wasn't until the mid-90s the internet got to the average Joe. So for 30 years it existed, but you had no clue. Somewhere in the mid-90s you found out about it. We have no idea what they're up there, what's going on behind there. If you did, you probably you would, what should we say, head for the hills. Because, it's scary stuff. It's only scary if the wrong person's in control. And who's going to control technology? When the atom bomb was released and all that power was created, of course, it was horrible in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But then immediately it's the spin came on. We're going to have nuclear plants around the world. We won't need fossil fuels anymore. Energy will be free for everybody. And they painted this rosy picture, all which could have been true, except for man would refuse to have it. So they didn't think about the accidents could happen, a few minor accidents relatively. But anyway, so that's all nixed. So, every technology has two sides. And the two sides are based upon what men want to do. So nuclear energy can heat your home or blow away the planet. It's a two-edged sword. Nuclear energy is neutral. It's not good or bad. but men are bad. The word says men are bad. Every dictator in history shows you men are bad. Unless they're regenerate, they are evil, and everything about them is evil. Jesus said, I know the hearts of men, it's continually evil. So, it's a matter of this Antichrist is coming, and he is the evil one who's going to control the neutral technology and turn the neutral technology into extreme evil. It's written. What did Moses say? Pharaoh said, thus it is written, thus it shall be. I think from the Ten Commandments. So that's what we're looking at. And what's going to happen here is as these final judgments happen, we get down to the 6th and 7th of the very final judgments. What we're going to see is that the bowls come toward the very end, and they are the judgments much like happened in Egypt. And then we see at the very end, the point C, I call it, the red bars, that the 6th judgment and 7th judgment of each series they're pretty much all the same point. I just call that point C. So A is the beginning of the tribulation. We have the rapture and the Red Horse War. Then we have the middle Antichrist and the 666. Then we have the end point C. And the point C is in the red here. So all of these judgments correlate to this point. So there's only one great earthquake. We see in the seals, it talks about the great earthquake. We see in the bowls, the great earthquake. The 4 angels are loosed, and the Euphrates is dried up. A 200 million man army of the east comes. It says of the east. Today we'd probably say Asian army would be more in our vernacular. So the Asian army's coming. They've been able to field a 200 million man army for decades. I'm sure it'll be much bigger than that. And then there's silence in heaven before the final second coming. So the Armageddon and the second coming are two sides of the same coin, much like the rapture and the World War III are two sides of the same coin. So point A is made of several subpoints. Point C here at the end is made of several subpoints. And we're going to go further into that in depth. In chapter 11, as we go through the end of it, we're going to find out that when the 7th angel sounds his trumpet, the kingdom of the world will have become the kingdom of our Lord and his Messiah. He will reign forever and ever. That's why there's silence in heaven in chapter 8:1 in the 7th trumpet, because there's never been silence in heaven, but it's such a momentous thing. In other words, it's the culmination of God's plan from the Garden of Eden. There's a plan that goes all the way through the Bible. It's called the scarlet thread of the prophecy and all the peoples, even the begats, all of that from the very beginning. God predicted Messiah would come. The Jews knew he was coming. They were looking for him, but did not recognize him. And then all the way through the church age, which we're in now, the time of the church, and then finally the end, the great punctuation. And so when the silence happens, that's the culmination, and Christ comes back. But we have a real dilemma unless we look at the wording and the word itself. We see that the kingdoms of the world at that point, and that's at point C at the end of the 7 years, will become or have become the kingdoms of the Lord. Well, that begs the question. Well, if they will have become the kingdoms, then who was ruling the world before then? Well, I can just look at the news and tell you who's ruling the world. It's not God. God is not ruling the world. God is not causing death and destruction. God is not causing people to, boys to think they're girls and girls to think they're boys. God is not behind anything that I see in the news. Almost everything that's in the news is evil and against the scripture and against God's plan in every way. So how did that come about? Well, that's because this world is not ruled by God. This world in the Garden of Eden was given over to Satan. And so Satan took the rulership from Adam. Adam was told, have dominion. Sometimes we don't think about that. We don't use that word very much, dominion. Okay, so the dominion means total rulership and control. Adam had total rulership and control of the world. And God was to be the only God, and Adam walked with him. But when Satan tricked him Well, he tricked the woman, and she was so wonderful, the man couldn't give her up. I think some men are in that boat today. But at any rate, so what we see is at that point, Adam handed over to Satan the title deed of the earth. So who's ruling the world now? Oh, I don't believe. I never heard this before. I don't believe this. Well, then we have to go to the Gospels. You have to hear it from Jesus. The devil came to him and he said to Jesus, if you bow down and worship me, I'm going to give you what? The rulership of the world. And Jesus, you would think that he would say, oh, no, God rules the world. You don't. He didn't tell him that because that wouldn't have been true. That would have been a lie. Jesus never told a lie. He let him know clearly that I will not bow down. I will not do what Adam did. Adam bowed down to Satan. And Jesus said, I'm not going to bow down to you. I know you have control of the world and rule it. And of course, if there's a verse that clearly states that, 2 Corinthians 4:4 says Satan is the god of this world. Little g. He's not God, but he is the God of this world. And all you have to do is look at everything and everyone and all the news and tell me God is behind that, because he is most certainly not. I love these insurance people. It was an act of God. No, God had nothing to do with it. They want to blame everything on God because they think God does everything. But God purposely limited himself. When he gave Adam the deed to the world, he made a compact, a covenant, a legal agreement with him. And when Adam, who was the legal owner, turned it over to another person, it's like when I sold my house out in Colorado, I had to sign a bunch of legal agreements. So now the other guy owns the house. Well, after the other guy owns the house, I don't own it anymore. After Adam sold the house, Satan owns the house. So he's the God of this world, but he's not the God over us. Okay, we are controlled by the Lord God. Unless you're regenerate, unless you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, you are born again, which means he has given you to be the power of the sons of God. Unless you are that, you are ruled by Satan. So everyone that you think is neutral out there and they rule themselves, and they're all full of themselves, who don't know Christ, they don't control anything. Satan totally controls them. The word says he takes them over whenever he wants to. He doesn't bother with them all the time. It's just if there's a need, he'll send one of his imps over there. Hey, this guy's getting out of line. Go take it. I think he went to a meeting the other day. Get on this guy. We're not going to have any of that Christian stuff around here. And he's going to send his demon out to make the guy stray away from the word. That's part of the parable of the sower. But at any rate, so what we have is that Satan is the rule of the world, and he has been since the garden. And at this point, and you say, well, why is it so momentous? Because all these thousands of years, and I'm going to say 6,000 years since the garden. You may differ, but I think the scripture's accurate. So Bishop Usher calculated all the dates, and it's around 6,000 years. So 6,000 years from the garden, Satan has ruled the planet. And now, after 6,000 years, who is going to rule the planet again? Jesus. He has become. He was not, but now he has become the ruler. So now he's the ruler. So what's the first thing he does as the ruler when he comes back? He sets up point D. What is point D? The millennial kingdom. So the Jews want their king to rule over them. They're going to get it. And they're all going to receive him. After 7 years of preparation, the Jews, which is mainly for the Jews, they will look upon him whom they pierced, Zechariah 12:10, and mourn for him as an only son. They're going to receive Messiah. And then he's going to set up his kingdom and rule from Jerusalem, and Israel will be the key nation on earth. And we're going to be there as the governmental administration. Seventh trumpet, it is finished. So I'll leave you with a parting thought, and next week we're going into 12 and a lot more depth. The parting thought here is I hear every day, it seems like, about the green movement and how man is destroying, man meaning man like our cars and our factories and our petroleum, whatever. We're destroying the planet. God doesn't. God says that's nonsense. That's not what's destroying the planet. It says here that the earth dwellers, small and great, are destroying the earth. So who's destroying the earth? Unbelief, unbelievers, the sinners, the evil people are destroying the earth. There is no green movement. Yeah, if anything, I say God has a red movement. If red stands for judgment, then the next big movement is the red movement. God is going to wipe the earth with these people. I don't like that. I like Jesus with the lamb. Well, there's two Jesuses. That's why they missed him the first coming. They wanted the lion, but they did not receive the lamb. And a lot of church people want the lamb, but they don't want the lion. You can't have one without both. Jesus is not a weak little guy carrying a lamb through a field. He is probably the strongest man that's ever lived. Nobody could have gone through what he went through. Arnold Schwarzenegger he would have cried and whimpered and run away from the cross. Only Jesus was a man's man who showed the greatest strength any man has ever shown for any purpose. Without him, there is nothing. So you can listen to the world, you can listen to unbelievers, you can listen to the green movement, but God says you can have your green movement, but just keep in mind the red movement is coming, and the red movement of blood and destruction is coming soon. Oh, that's dark. Well, I'm not God. I didn't make all this up. I'm just telling you what's coming. I'm a messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the piano player. Don't shoot me. This is what's coming. And do you think it's coming soon? Well, if you study it like I do and watch what's going on in the world, yes, I say soon. How soon? I don't know. God soon. Soon is different for God than us, but it's soon. I think someone said, if this country keeps on going like it's going, God will have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah, because we are probably more wicked. You say, why are we more wicked? We've had more word and more preaching and more light than any country in the history of the world, yet we're going down the same path as Sodom and Gomorrah. Enough preaching about that. I'm supposed to be teaching here. Anyway, so that's I think that's where we wrap it up here. And whoo, that's a lot of stuff. Next week, I'm going to kind of explain some of this. Don't get lost in all this. I'm going to try to show you how the revelation, when you understand certain things, like the parentheticals versus the end time, there's serial time, and then there's places where it's lifted out of time to focus on things. As we go through the next chapters, 12, 13, 14, 15, we're going to see all these are parenthetical, focusing on a particular part, and that's what we're going to start doing next week and onward. So I'm going to try always reinforce the framework and let you know where we are in the book, and then the timeline.